Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about some quadratic word problems. So each of these word problems are going to turn into a quadratic equation, and then we're going to be able to solve it using the same methods that we've been learning about over the past couple weeks. So first question, the length of a rectangle is 4 centimeters more than its width. If the area of the rectangle is 21 square centimeters, then what are the dimensions? What are the length and the width? Okay, so two things I have here. I have the width, okay? We're just gonna call that W. And we have the length, in which we know it is 4 centimeters more, okay? So what I'm gonna call the length is L. And we're gonna say that L is whatever the width is plus 4, okay? So then we're told that the area of this thing is 21 square centimeters, okay? So I find the area by multiplying length and width together. So what I really have is W times W plus 4, and when I multiply those things together, I get 21, okay? So now, in order to solve this thing, let's get rid of our parentheses and let's get it in standard form. So first I'm going to distribute this W that I have right here, and that's going to give me W squared plus 4W is equal to 21. And then from here, options I have are either to try to factor it or solve by completing the square. I'm going to solve by factoring, because I think that's going to be the easiest way. So in order to do that, we're going to move this 21 to the left side. So it becomes W squared plus 4W minus 21 equal to 0. So now we are looking for factors of negative 21, and those factors have to add to make 4. So I've got 1 and 21, or 3 and 7. And I can make a positive 4 with these two factors. So my factors are W minus 3 and W plus 7. Okay, that's equal to 0. My solutions are going to be W is equal to 3 and W is equal to negative 7. Okay, so I have two different answers here, all right? But thinking about the actual problem here, is it possible for the width of this rectangle to be negative? No, it's not. Okay, so we're going to throw out this negative answer because it makes no sense here. We cannot have a negative width. Okay, so the width of this rectangle is 3. Okay, and then if our length is 4 more than that, then the length is 7. So those are the dimensions of this rectangle. Okay, here's another problem that says the product of two consecutive numbers is 1,122. What are the numbers? Okay, so if I have two consecutive numbers, so right here it says two consecutive numbers. The way that I can write that is I can call one of them X, okay, and the other one I'm going to call it X plus 1. So that's how we write two consecutive numbers, okay? So we're told that if we multiply these numbers together, we get 1,122, okay? So now, just like the last problem, let's simplify this thing. So if I distribute X, I get X squared plus X is equal to 1,122, okay? And now, just like the last problem, we are going to move that number to the left side, and I get X squared plus X minus 1,122 is equal to 0. Okay, so now let's try to factor this thing. So if I take that number, negative 1,122, and I am looking for factors that give me a positive 1, okay? So if I divide by 1, I get 1,122. I'm way off right now. Okay, so I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit and let's try 10, okay? If I divide this number by 10, what do we get? So let's see here. And that's a decimal, so let's try 11. Okay, so if I divide by 11, we get 102. So we're still way off. So let's jump ahead a little further and let's try 21. So that doesn't work. If I try 22, I get 51. So this is still nowhere near giving me a positive 1 if I combine those two things. So let's jump up to 30 now. So that's going to be a decimal. Divide by 31, also decimal, divide by 32, also decimal, and divide by 33. And I get 34 there. So 33 and 34 are going to be factors of this number. Okay, so I can make a positive 1 there with a negative 33, and a positive 34. So the factors of this thing are x minus 33 and x plus 34 equal to 0. Okay, so my solutions would be x is equal to 33 and x is equal to negative 34. Okay, so now since we're told that these numbers are integers, they must be positive numbers. So this cannot be our answer. So one of our numbers is 33. Then the next number is going to be 34. So our numbers are 33 and 34. Those would be our two consecutive integers. All right, here's a problem about a garden. It says that the garden measures 12 meters by 16 meters, and it is to have a pedestrian pathway installed around it, increasing the total area to 285 square meters. What is the width of the pathway? Okay, so you see this picture down here, and we don't know the width of this pathway, so we're going to call it X right now. So now, this entire thing that we have is 285 square meters, okay? So I find the area by multiplying length and width, and this actual width here, if I include the x's that we have, there's an x on each side, so our width is actually 12 plus 2x, because there's an x on each side. All right, our length is going to go this way, and if we include those two x's, our length is actually 16 plus 2x. Okay, and I'm actually going to write that. I'm going to reverse those and make it 2x plus 12 and 2x plus 16. Okay, so now if the area of these is 285, I can multiply them together. So 2x plus 12 times 2x plus 16, and that should equal 285. Okay, so first step here is we are going to get rid of these parentheses. So let's distribute 2x times 2x. It's going to be 4x squared. 2x times 16, that's plus 32x plus 24x. 12 times 16, that is 192. And that's equal to 285. Okay, so now let's combine our like terms. So that's 4x squared plus 56x plus 192 is equal to 285. And then we're going to subtract 285 from both sides. And that's going to give me 4 x squared plus 56x minus 93 is equal to 0. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that I could try to solve this. I could try to factor, or I could use the quadratic formula. Okay, so since these numbers are a little bit bigger, let's just use the quadratic formula on this thing so we don't have to try to factor it. Okay, so quadratic formula, if you remember, is this: x is equal to negative b plus or minus root b squared minus 4ac, all of that's over to a. So my a in this case is 4, b is 56, and c is negative 93. So if I go back and sub those things in, I get x is equal to negative 56 plus or minus the square root of 56 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 93. All of that's over 2 times 4. Okay, and now we're just going to look at each of these three parts like we did before and simplify each. Okay, so the red part will just stay as negative 56 plus or minus, get out your calculator, and let's combine that stuff in blue there. So 56 squared minus 4 times negative 93 and that's going to be 4624. So square root of and then all of that is over 2 times 4 is 8. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to simplify this thing right here. Okay, so just try to take the square root of 4,624. And it does come out cleanly. It's 68. So we have x is equal to negative 56 plus or minus 68 over 8. So we have two different answers here. We either have negative 56 plus 68 over 8 or negative 56 minus 68 over 8. Okay, so negative 56 plus 68, that is going to be 12 over 8, which simplifies down to 1.5. Okay, the other one, negative 56 minus 68, divide that by 8, and that's negative 15.5. Okay, so we have two different answers here, but if we're talking about the width of a pathway, what we know is that cannot be negative, so this cannot be our answer, okay? So this down here is our answer. The width of that pathway is going to be 1.5 meters. Okay, here's another example. It says an athlete on the track team throws a shot put. The height, y, of the shot put in feet, t seconds after it is thrown is modeled by this equation. How long does it take the shot put to hit the ground? Okay, and just to kind of visualize what's going on here, if we were to have a graph of this thing, it would look like this right here. So the shot put goes in the air, eventually gravity pulls it back to the ground. Okay, so if I want to know when this thing hits the ground, I want to know when does it hit the x-axis, okay? And what I know about that point right there is that I know that y is 0 when this thing hits the ground. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna put in 0 for y. So I have negative 16 t squared plus 24 t plus 6.5 is equal to 0, okay? And to solve this thing, I definitely do not want to complete the square because it has a 16 in front, okay? I don't want to try to factor because it has the decimal. We are going to try to use the quadratic formula here. So if we identify A as negative 16, B is 24, and C is 6.5, and then we're just going to sub those things in. So X is negative 24 plus or minus the square root of 24 squared minus 4 times A times C. Okay, all of that's over 2 times A. Okay, so now look at each of these parts. So again, the red part is just going to stay the same. So we have X is equal to negative 24 plus or minus 24 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 6.5. That's going to be 992, so square root of 992. All of that is over negative 32. So now we're going to try to do the square root right here. What is the square root of 992? And it's a decimal. Okay, so we're not going to worry about simplifying the radical. I'm just going to go ahead and let's just break this thing apart here. And we have two answers. We either have negative 24 plus root 992 over negative 32, or negative 24 minus root 992 over negative 32. And I'm going to put each of those into the calculator. So negative 24 plus the square root of 992. And then if I divide that by negative 32, I get negative 0.23. Okay. And really that negative 0.23 is actually over here if I look at this graph on the left side. Okay, so I actually don't want this answer. I don't want a negative answer. I can't have a negative time. So the other one, negative 24 minus the square root of 992, and then divide that by negative 32. And we get the answer of about 1.73 seconds. And that's the answer we want. So it takes about 1.73 seconds for the shot put to hit the ground. All right, here's one last example. A toy rocket is fired into the air from the top of a barn. Its height above the ground is yards and yards. After t seconds is given by this function. How long was the rocket in the air before hitting the ground? So again, if we just visualize this thing, here's what it's going to look like. So it takes off from 20 feet off the ground. It's going to go in the air for a little while, and then eventually it's going to come back down. And if we want to know when it hits the ground, again, we're saying that y is 0, okay? So here we're going to have negative 5t squared plus 10t plus 20, and that is equal to 0. Okay, so now, in order to factor this thing, or solve this thing, I could use any method. Let's try to factor it. Okay, so first, I'm going to get rid of that negative 5, and we're going to divide everything by negative 5. So if I do that, divide by negative 5, I get this equation, all right? T squared minus 2t minus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, because I am dividing by negative 5 there. All right, now, I could try to factor, but it's actually not possible to factor. There are no factors of 4 that add to make negative 2. Okay, so my options are I could either do completing the square or I could do the quadratic formula. Since these numbers are relatively small and that middle number is even, I'm going to complete the square. So we're going to move that negative 4 to the other side. So t squared minus 2t, leave this guy, is equal to positive 4. Okay, so if I break negative 2 in half, I've got negative 1 and negative 1. If I square that, it's going to be a positive 1, and we're going to add that to the other side. Okay, so my factors are going to be t minus 1 squared, and that's equal to 5. And then we just take the square root. So the square root of this and square root of this, we have t minus 1 is equal to plus or minus root 5. So two answers that we have, we either have t minus 1 is equal to the positive root 5, or t minus 1 is equal to negative root 5. Okay, so on the top one, if I take the square root of 5 and I add 1 to it, I get 3.2. And let's say 3.24. Okay, on the bottom one, if I take that negative root 5 and add 1 to it, I actually get negative 1.24. Okay, and again, I cannot have a negative time, so it cannot be that. This is my answer. It takes about 3.24 seconds for this toy rocket to hit the ground. Okay, so please go check out some of the assignment that's on Canvas, and we'll actually work a little bit more on this tomorrow. So anyway, you guys should be able to solve quadratic word problems. So we'll spend today and tomorrow kind of practicing this. So let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.